This is the instructional video for assignment 3.4, ticket. In this assignment you're creating a ticket for a fictitious special event that is made on a table. The table is shown in its finished version in the middle of the document, and in this finished version you see that there's an outside border and there's a dashed border for the tear stub, and there's a couple of internal borders as well. And down below you can see all the rows and columns showing in this version of it, but when you print it out you don't want to see all these rows and columns, you only want to see what it looks like on the finished version. So what we're going to do is we're going to decide on how many rows and columns to use. We're going to be doing some cell merging, we're going to be doing some alignments, and we're also doing something called text direction. In this section all the text is turned sideways. And then we're going to remove all the borders and then reset them so that there's just the outside border, the dashed border here, and the two internal borders on this side. Now the first thing to notice in trying to decide on how many rows and how many columns is that this column is the same width as this column, same width as this column, same width as this. So in this particular section here there are 4 columns, and there's column number 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 8 columns total, and here in this section we are going to set columns or distribute columns evenly. As for rows, we can see that there is a big fat row here that spans 3 of the little rows. Again, the same thing, a row that spans 3 little rows, and here as well a wider row that spans what appears to be 2 rows. Now, if where it says Clive and the Headmasters is actually a merge of 2 rows, we could actually make this document 9 rows. 3 rows here, 3 rows here, 3 rows here, that match these 3 super rows, shall we call them. So, you'll see that when we create this, we're actually going to make 8 column, 9 row table to start with. So let's move that off to the side and reduce it just a little bit so we can keep an eye on it. There we go. And let's build our table here. We'll start by inserting the 8 column by 9 row table, and here we can only go to 8 by 8, but we'll just create the 8 by 8, click in the last cell, hit the tab key, and that gives us our 9th row. Looking at the template here, we're going to make some skinny columns and some wider columns, and remember these 4 columns here are going to be the same width. So starting over on the right here, I'll just click in this column so the computer knows I'm talking about that one. I'm going to reduce the width of that one a little bit, reduce the width of that one a lot, reduce that one just a bit, and this one a whole lot. And I'm going to widen the big 4 over there, and then if I click right at the top of the column here where I get that black arrow, I can select the column, I slide over, I select 4 columns, right click and distribute columns evenly. Now it's time to do a little cell merging. If I merge these 3, right click, merge cells, I can do that again here, right click, merge cells, and because I haven't changed any of the row heights, they're all going to be even, which is what we're after. Right click, merge cells. That's too many clicks. Most Microsoft programs have a Control Y feature, which is a redo command, so I'm just going to go Control Y, and it will repeat the last command. Control Y, Control Y. I can get both my hands to work here. Control Y. I'm just doing Control Y with my left hand, and my mouse button is on my right hand, so it's much faster. So here I'm going to span 2 rows. Remember, where it says Clive and the Headmasters is going to span 2 rows. And we'll do some more merges here. And there we go. So there's my basic outline that I'm going to follow. I can type in IT presents Clive and the Headmasters. I'm not going to type it all in, just the basics so that you can see how it's going to be done. So this section here I'm going to select it all, right click on it, and I'm going to do the cell alignment at the same time, center, center. It's a lot faster that way. Clive and the Headmasters is going to be bigger. Let's set that as 18 point. And bold it, Control B to bold it. Now let's do some work on this section here. Now this section here, remember the text is going to be sideways. So if I type in IT7 Presents, it widens the cell to accommodate the data. If I right click in that cell and I go to text direction, I can choose to rotate it. In this case I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise. That says OK. It turns it sideways, and now as you can see the column width is returned to its original. If I right click on it and go to cell alignment, you can see that my alignment choices have now turned sideways as well, and I can choose center center, and now IT7 Presents looks the way it's supposed to. So I can go ahead and finish the rest of these. Put the row, I think it's row 4, C12, and section 107. Now I can take all of these and turn these, whoops, section 107 is over there. So I can take all of these and turn these sideways at the same time. I'll highlight them all, I'll right click, and go to text direction and turn it sideways. And I'm also going to do the cell alignment while I'm at it. And as you can see here, I've got a problem with section rotating, or sorry, it's text wrapping. So I'm going to change the size of some of these. I'm going to change the size of these, and I'm going to change that to say 9 point. There, now it fits nicely. So now I've got the basic outline. The problem that I still have, well, besides that, the problem that I still have is that I would like the borders to look like this. Right now every cell has a solid border all the way around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away all of the borders, making them invisible. And here's how I do it. I choose the anchor here in the corner that selects the entire table. I go to my Borders tool, and I go to No Border. Once I do that, all the borders are gone, and I can't tell where the cells start and stop. So while I've got it all selected, it's handy to go back to the Border tool and do an outside border. Now I'll do an outside border on what I have selected. It appears here I've left the I've left it as a dashed line from some work I did before. If I go down to Borders and Shading here, and Borders and Shading, by the way, is also available by right-clicking and going to Borders and Shading. It takes you to the same place. The Border tool here will show me a representation of the thing I have highlighted. So the thing I have highlighted right now has a bunch of interior cells as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a solid line, and I'm just going to click on Box. And that'll put a solid line on the box. Say OK. Now I've got a solid line on the outside. This cell here though, and I'm going to be careful to select the entire cell by going to the top there. This cell here, I would like to have a left border as a dashed line. So let's go to Borders and Shading again, and here it shows me a representation of the thing I have highlighted. I have this cell highlighted, and as you can see there's a top solid border and a bottom solid border matching the bottom solid border and top solid border here. I would like to add a left border along here that is dashed, so I choose dashed, and I just have to click mid-span here in this diagram and it'll put it in for me. I say OK, and it shows up there. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to click and drag so I have two cells highlighted. Then I'm going to go to my Borders and Shading window, and as you can see, of the stuff I have highlighted, there's a right border and a top border. Right border, top border. I'm going to add that solid line here at the bottom. And I say OK. And you know what? I can do it again here. Control Y puts it in there. And so that's pretty much done. I just have to add in some of the other details there that I didn't bother typing in, but you get the picture. So good luck with that.